You need to think that if I am really going to care about this person and their career, I have to tell them when they made mistakes. I have to actually come forth to them and say, actually, this is the standard that we're holding here.
Hannah Hotline, how can I redirect your call? Oh, hello. Hi, I have a really big problem at
Dear
work.
Hannah Hotline.
I don't really like my boss. I'm really attracted to the guy I work with, but
I just want to say no, but I say
it's
yes.
my self-esteem, you know? Maybe it's burnout. This is the operator putting you through now.
Hey, hotties, welcome back to Hannah Hotline. We're really excited to get into this juicy listener email. All right, let's just get into it right away. So the listener says, Dear Hannah, I'm a senior associate at a top tier firm and I have a junior that I genuinely like. Well, that's good. He's smart, kind, and pretty capable. But recently he made a really big mistake in an important document for a major client, a glaring typo that the client caught and came to me about. The client circled it in huge red writing and said, What is this? Inside, I was mortified and angry. It felt like my competence and reputation were on the line. But when I spoke to him, I didn't actually say any of that. Instead of clearly naming the mistake or saying that what I needed to change, I just said, I feel sick about this. And somehow the conversation flipped so that he was the one comforting me, saying things like, it's okay, these things happen, even though it definitely was not okay. And this isn't a one-off dynamic. There's another example. Sometimes he just doesn't follow instructions. I'll give him something to do, outline what needs to happen, and what comes back is either half done or he's focused on something completely different. Yeah, that would fucking piss me off too. On the surface, everything stayed nice. No one cried, no one snapped. But now I feel resentful toward him for the mistake and toward myself for not being honest about how serious it was for me. I'm stuck between wanting to be kind and not wanting to be walked over, and instead I'm just swallowing my frustration and stewing in it. Underneath all of this, I'm terrified of becoming like the former boss I had, someone who gave feedback in a really cold, cutting way with zero sense that they cared about you as a human being. Yikes. That experience left a huge imprint on me. Yeah, I fucking bet. So now, whenever I'm in a position where I should be firm and direct, I freeze. I don't want my junior to feel the way that I felt, but the result is that I'm stuck in this weird limbo where I swallow my frustration, overfunction emotionally, and then betray myself later for not being clear. How do I address this? Love, your chronic conflict avoider in a power suit. Okay, wow. All right, my chronic conflict avoider, I'm about to give you some tough love, which is really like the tough love that you should be giving your junior or your direct report. So I'm going to talk today about two concepts. One is the concept of radical candor, and this is a concept by Kim Scott. She is a Silicon Valley executive. She's worked at some of the top tech companies, and now she's really consults and coaches CEOs, but she's gone quite broadly with this concept of radical candor, and she does a lot of consulting into large enterprise companies around this topic, which is really about how you both care personally and challenge directly. And then I'm going to go into nonviolent communication, which is one of my favorite techniques. If you haven't listened to the nonviolent communication episode, I highly recommend that. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes, but that is going to be an episode that's going to break down nonviolent communication step by step, which I'm also going to do here in this scenario to give you a framework for actually how to talk to your junior. So I'm just going to really summarize this email here and set the scene. So you are a senior associate, you have a junior, a direct report who's making mistakes. One of your clients has called you out on that huge mistake. You then say nothing but feel resentful about it. And I want to go over what the emotional state that I'm really hearing in this email is. So first there's shame, client seeing the error. You feel like you are being put on the line in some way. You feel like it is ultimately your error, which it ultimately is. This does reflect on you. This is your junior. This is your direct report. So what he does is 100% a direct reflection of what you do. So I understand that. There's anger at the mistake, at the direct report. Then what I hear, like fear of being similar to your harsh boss, but then also real resentment, first toward the junior and then toward yourself for not really showing up. So this concept of radical candor, it's basically on if you think of an XY axis, and on one of the axes, you think of something which Kim Scott calls, this is the give a damn axis. And on the top, it's care personally. So it's really how much you care about your direct report or about anyone that you work with. So we have that on one axis, and it's clear here from my email that you do really care about this person. You think that they're competent, you think that they're capable, and you don't want to turn into your former boss. You don't want to be harsh, you don't want to be cold, you don't want to be cutting. However, what you're doing is actually a disservice both to you and your direct report's career, because you're actually not giving them giving him the feedback that he needs to thrive in this firm. He is then at risk for not performing as well as he should have. He's then at risk for not being, not getting a promotion just because you don't have the words and the tools to say something. So given that you are a senior associate, this is at your level, and you need to have the tools to actually come forward and tell someone when they are making a mistake and challenge them. So first we have on one axis, which is care personally. Then we have on the other axis, which is challenge directly. So if you think about challenging right now, where you're sitting on that axis is you're not challenging at all. You're sitting on the other end of it, which is more silence. And this is a category where Kim calls caring personally and challenging directly. It's almost in the XY axis, it's on the top right-hand side, and it's what's called radical candor. And it's how are you showing that you care about the person, but also telling them what they need to hear. Right now, you are sitting in a category which is called ruinous empathy, which is you're caring for the person, but you're not challenging them at all when they need to be challenged. So first, we're like the mindset that you have is by challenging them on what is going wrong, on what the mistake is, that is actually showing that you care for them. So right now, what you really did is you avoided challenging directly. And so you didn't set the standard. And then you ultimately hold the consequence for that. You're then ultimately the one that really bears responsibility for it. So you need to think that if I am really going to care about this person in their career, I have to tell them when they made mistakes. I have to actually come forth to them and say, actually, this is the standard that we're holding here. So then I'm going to go through nonviolent communication. So if we think about radical candor is more of a mindset. Are you caring and are you challenging? But how do you actually challenge? So you need to be able to tell this direct report that actually it's not okay for you to make mistakes like this. And there has to be a process to put in place. Obviously, we all make mistakes here and there. That's fine. But if you're not calling it out and there's not then a process put in place after, these types of mistakes are going to happen again. And you're also not putting the ownership back on your direct report, whose responsibility it really is to be checking and making sure that there aren't typos like this. So what you did instead was saying, I feel sick about this. Now, by telling him, I feel sick about this, you're not really saying anything. And then he's ending up comforting you. So what we really want to do is change that and give you tools and a language and a framework. So this is where nonviolent communication comes in. So nonviolent communication, it's a 4-step process. It's by Marshall Rosenberg. I highly recommend utilizing this process. I utilize it all the time, both in personal and professional settings. So the first step in nonviolent communication is the observation. So really just observing what happened here very factually. Given that you're an associate in a law firm, you will be able to do this very clearly, where you almost want to show like, what are the facts here? What are the facts without opinions, without any emotion? So if we look at what the fact would be, it would be in the document that we sent to the client, there was a typo. The client then picked it up and raised it with me. It is also your responsibility to ensure that there are no typos in the document. That is all factual. There's no opinion on that. It is his responsibility. It is in the scope of what he has to do, according to what you're saying here. So then we go into feeling. Now, sometimes if you are in an environment, in a work environment where it's not necessarily psychologically safe, and it sounds like in an environment with your old boss who was cruel and cold and harsh and cutting, it wouldn't be psychologically safe to say how you feel. But in this environment, you definitely can because it's with a direct report. So what you say, when this happens, I feel or I felt, you really want to be careful here that you're not saying you made me feel. You're not placing the blame on anyone else. You're owning your feelings. And it is, it is related to what has happened. So an example could have been, when that happened, I felt very stressed and embarrassed. That's it. You were stressed about this because of your relationship with the client, and you were embarrassed for how you guys look, which is 100% valid here. Then we want to go into the third step, which is, what is the need here? So when you think of a need in this dynamic, it usually ties to a core value. So is the core value here that you need really trust? You need to be able to trust him that your direct report's going to deliver this type of work. You need to feel like you are a team. You need to feel like you can rely on him. And you also need a level of accuracy. You are a law firm. This is a big client. You need to be able to know that you can trust this person to deliver that. So an example of the need could be, accuracy and attention to detail are non-negotiable, especially for this level of client. I need to be able to trust that anything that goes out has been thoroughly checked. So you've got accuracy, you've got trust, you've got the willingness for you to be able to put this person in front of clients and put their document in front of clients. Now, we're going to move into the last step. And the last step is definitely the most important. And I would say that this is something that I see missing in most people's communication, especially internally in an organization when things have gone wrong. And that is, are you clearly asking for what you really want? So are you saying, what is the clear, concrete request that is both actionable and positive that this person will understand? So when you previously said, I feel sick about this, there's nothing that you're requesting. You're not asking for him to do things differently. You're not asking for a process to be put in place. You're not improving in things in any way. You're just kind of stating your own internal sickness without really moving forward the situation. So an example for this is, from now on, I need you to build a clear proofreading step before anything comes to me. Can you walk me through the process you'll use for double checking typos? So this is a very clear request. You're saying, I need you to proofread it. That's black and white. What's the process that you're going to take? This has to be done before going out to any client. Now, that is also showing that you care about this person, but you're also challenging them. So when we think about caring personally, challenging directly, you are stating that you're going to be challenging what this person does, but you could also add a sentence or two of saying, I really care about your career and your progression. If you want to progress in this organization, this is a skill that you definitely need to learn. I want to help you improve upon this, but it's something that definitely needs to be done. And so what you're saying to them is that you care about the career. It's also just so much easier if people are more forthcoming with what they want. There's no ambiguity. There's no guessing. He knows where he stands. He knows what he needs to improve upon, but also you're going to get your needs met within this. And everyone's just going to be happier because there's going to be no like fucking guessing how it is that you feel. There's no passive aggressive nature here. If something's wrong, you're going to like be able to very directly say it. Another thing to kind of think about is, what is the reason that you're not saying this? What is the reason that you're almost hiding behind, I feel sick about this? Is it that you don't have the tools and the language? Well, I've just given you the tools and the language. Or is it that you feel some sort of shame and guilt and you feel like there's a part of you that can't really challenge? If so, then there's definitely some parts that need to be resolved. And this is exactly, a lot of times when people come to me in my program, the Life and Work Transformation, they're quite nervous about standing up for themselves. They don't feel the confidence. They don't feel the self-assurance that they need to. So giving people the framework like this is something that we definitely go over. I have had a lot of very similar client scenarios like this, whether people are working with cross-functional partners or direct reports. But how is it that you show up and that you have the confidence and the conviction in order to do that? So you want to think about, why am I not showing up in this way? What's really going on underneath that? And it might be very uncomfortable to do things like this at first, but it is definitely something that the more you do it, the more it's like a muscle. Also in the show notes, I have my career confidence course, One of the modules goes step by step through this process, and it also gives you a worksheet for nonviolent communication. So if you want to see that broken down, definitely sign up for that course. It's absolutely free. It's in the show notes. Click on that, sign up for it, and that way you can get a breakdown of how to do this. Now, what did we really go through today? So in summary, really looking at what are the different emotional states that you felt when you experienced this? How can you both care personally for whoever you're working with, but also challenge directly so that you get your needs met, so that they are producing the work that is up to the standard of excellence that you really need in whatever role? And then how do you go through that in a very clean, concrete way? And that's by using the nonviolent communication framework, which is what's the observation of what's going on? What's the feeling that you're experiencing as a result of what has happened? What is the greater need? So you needed trust, you needed accuracy, you needed a level of standard of excellence. And then what's the request? The request was you needed a clear, concrete way for them to proofread any documents before they go out to clients. Now, if you do this, you are going to be a high support, high challenge leader, which is really what people want. People want to grow and people want to develop. And if someone doesn't want to grow and develop, then they shouldn't be in your organization. They can go to another law firm, or they can go to another organization where they can just stay stagnant, and that's not your problem. And really separating you from that. If someone reacts poorly to this, that also says, a lot about their development and their willingness to develop. And that probably says something about what type of person they are for your team. So I hope that you go say this. Listener, I'd love to hear back from you. Let me know when you implement this. It's also never too late to implement this. Even if it's happened a week ago, a month ago, you can say, hey, look, I want to just recap something that happened here. This is for your development and also to ensure this is what happens moving forward with clients. So, that we're on the same page, but you can always go back. All right, big fucking dreamers. All right, Hannah Hotties, thank you so much for listening. If you have a Hannah Hotline email, I'd love to hear from you. You can email hello@hannahkissel.com. You can have your email read. I absolutely love getting them, love reading through them. So send your emails there, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bonka, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominic Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominic on Instagram @DominicJingles or email DominicEnglish04@gmail.com.